time to bust one of the biggest myths in bodybuilding. That classic 3x12 workout they taught you, it might have been holding you back for years, and you didn't even realize it. What you're about to hear might shock you and completely change the way you train. No more going through the motions or blindly following a generic plan. Your body deserves better, and your results too. If you're serious about leveling up, this video's for you. So grab your pre-workout and let's go, because after this, your training will never be the same. For the longest time, the 3 sets of 12 reps model has been treated like gospel in gyms. Almost every beginner gets handed that template like it's some kind of magic formula to build muscle. But does it actually make sense? These days, science and experience say no. That structure became more of a habit than a real strategy. Sure, it's easy to apply, but it totally ignores key training principles. And guess who's losing out? You. Because you could be making way more progress. Let's be real. Have you ever stopped to ask why you're doing exactly 3 sets of 12? Or did you just do it because that's what your program says? Most people don't question it. They just trust that someone knows what they're doing, even when no one's really explained it. And that's the problem. There's zero personalization. Every body is different. Every goal is unique. So how can the same workout work for everyone? That doesn't sound right. A solid workout should factor in intensity, effort level, and where you are in your fitness journey. The 3x12 model doesn't do any of that. The big mistake with this approach is treating training like a checklist. You hop on a machine, crank out 12 reps, rest, and repeat. But were those 12 reps even enough? Did you actually push your muscle to grow? The human body doesn't respond to a magic number. It responds to real effort. Sometimes you hit 10 reps and still have fuel for 5 more. Other times, you're dying by rep 8. But because your sheet says 12, you either stop early or keep going with bad form. Does that really sound efficient? Another issue. This model completely ignores the most important factor, intensity. Doing 12 reps with a super light weight might feel comfy, but it's not enough stimulus for muscle growth. On the flip side, doing 12 reps with a load that's way too heavy can mess up your form and get you injured. The number of reps alone doesn't define a good workout. What actually matters is how much you challenge your muscles, how hard they had to work. A lot of people stick to the 3x12 because they saw some results with it. But just because something kind of works doesn't mean it's the best way. A car still runs with a flat tire, but that doesn't mean it's running well. Same goes for your training. You might see gains early on, but then you hit a plateau. That's when frustration kicks in, and you feel like you're working hard but getting nowhere. Truth is, it's not your fault. It's the outdated method that's holding you back. Before you switch up your training, it's key to understand how your muscles actually work. Inside every muscle are different types of fibers, and each one serves a different role. We're not just talking about muscle like it's one thing. Think of it more like a team with specialized players. Knowing how they operate gives you a huge edge, because if you want smart results, you got to know who you're working with. Let's break it down in a simple way. Come with me. First up, we've got type 1 fibers, aka slow twitch. These are built for endurance. They're strong in the long game. Think walking, biking casually, or light cardio. They don't generate much power, but they keep going for a while. Imagine a fuel-efficient car that just keeps cruising. In lightweight training, these are the fibers that jump in first and do most of the initial work. Then come the type 2A fibers, the middle ground between strength and endurance. They generate more power than type 1 and can still resist fatigue fairly well. These kick in when things get tougher, like during moderate weight training. Think of them as a more powerful engine, built for action when you need both force and some stamina. If you're aiming for hypertrophy, real muscle growth, these fibers need to be part of the action. And finally, we've got the famous type 2X fibers, also known as 2B. These are the beasts, super strong and super explosive. They show up when your body's like all in right now. Perfect for sprints, jumps, or maxing out on a heavy lift. But they've got a weakness. They burn out fast. Short bursts of power, then they're done. That's why they're tough to stimulate in lightweight, high-rep workouts. Now that you get how these 3 fiber types work, ask yourself this. Is that easy, repetitive 3 by 12 workout actually hitting all of them? Spoiler, it's not. With light weights, your body mostly relies on the type 1 fibers. The others only show up when the effort goes beyond what those fibers can handle. That means you either need to train to failure or lift heavier to activate the other types. Without that, your workout won't deliver the stimulus you're hoping for. The key here is variation and intensity. It's not just about training a lot. It's about training smart to reach all your muscle fibers. If you're always doing the same thing, using the same weights and reps, your body adapts and stops progressing. Smart training hits every type of fiber by switching up weights, speed, and stimulus. And that's where knowledge comes in. When you understand how these fibers work, you can get the most out of every single workout. Now let's get into one of the most important parts of this video. What does science actually say about all this? For a long time, people believed there was a magic rep range to grow muscle. But recent research has blown that myth wide open. One of the most respected names in strength training is researcher Brad Schoenfeld. He led studies that totally changed the way we understand how muscle building works. According to Brad, the number of reps doesn't determine muscle growth. What really matters is how intense your effort is, how much you challenge the muscle. In his studies, he compared people doing just 3 reps to others doing 30 or more. And guess what? They all built similar amounts of muscle, as long as they push to failure. That's right. It doesn't matter if you do low or high reps, as long as the effort is real. But what exactly is muscle failure? It's that point where you physically can't do another rep with good form, even if you give it everything you've got. It's when your muscle taps out. When you hit failure, no matter how many reps it takes, you've pushed your muscle to the max. And that's the stimulus your body needs to adapt and grow. So it's not about how many times you lift the weight. It's about how hard you pushed. One recent study even tested sets with up to 150 reps and still saw solid muscle activation. That proves your body responds to accumulated fatigue, even with lighter weights. But here's the trick. You have to get close to failure. Otherwise, the effect is minimal. Doing 30 reps with baby weights and stopping just because you kind of felt tired doesn't cut it. You've got to push to your limit. These discoveries opened a lot of eyes and put the old 3 by 12 rule onto the spotlight. What used to be the way is now seen as one of many ways to train. If you're aware of your effort and training with real intensity, you can get great results doing 5, 10, 20, or even 30 reps. But if you're just going through the motions on autopilot, your progress hits a wall. Think about it. Does your training actually push you to failure, or are you just checking boxes? These studies also show that variation is great, but the real focus needs to be on quality effort. The problem isn't doing 12 reps. The problem is doing 12 just because someone told you to, without asking if those 12 were actually tough enough. Now that you know this, it's time to ask yourself, are you training with the intensity your body really needs? So now that we've covered fiber types and the role of intensity, let's look at how your body responds when you train. Every time you do an exercise, your body picks which muscle fibers to activate first, and it's not random. Your body always tries to conserve energy. So when you start lifting something light, it calls in the type 1 fibers, the slow, steady ones. They're built for endurance and can handle that easy load. But as the exercise continues and those type 1 fibers start to fatigue, your body needs backup. That's when the type 2A fibers kick in. They're faster and stronger, and they jump in when the lighter ones can't keep up anymore. This process is called progressive fiber recruitment. Your body only brings out the big guns when it has to. In other words, if you don't push harder, your body won't either. This is more proof that intensity is the key to unlocking your full muscle potential. If you keep going and the exercise stays demanding, you'll reach the point where even the 2A fibers can't hang on. That's when the body calls in the type 2X fibers, the explosive ones. But heads up, they only show up when your body knows it's time to go all in. That usually happens when you're close to failure or lifting something seriously heavy. And the more fibers you recruit, the more stimulus your muscle gets. That's what builds real hypertrophy. Now, look how everything changes when you start your workout with a heavy load right from the beginning. your body instantly realizes that the type 1 fibers alone won't cut it. So without hesitation, it brings in the whole crew, type 1, 2A, and 2X all fire together to handle the load. The stimulus hits fast and hard because the demand is high from the very first second. That ramps up the intensity big time. Have you ever trained like that? This kind of full recruitment usually happens in short sets, around 3 to 6 reps with heavy weight. The effort is intense, but quick. Meanwhile, long sets with light weight slowly work their way up, recruiting fibers little by little until they reach that same level of challenge. Both can work if you take them far enough to create real fatigue. That's why rep count alone doesn't matter. What really counts is whether you push to that breaking point where your muscles were fully challenged. And here's where a lot of people mess up, simply because they don't know better or were never taught right. So here's a critical question. Why can counting reps actually hurt your progress? A lot of people walk into the gym laser-focused on checking off the list, doing 12 reps, resting, then repeating. Sounds organized, but in practice, it limits your growth. The number becomes the goal, not the effort. You start training to finish the set, not to push your muscles. And that flips your whole workout on its head. The first problem is when the weight's way too light. You breeze through 12 reps with no real struggle. Your muscles barely get a wake-up call. And like we've already seen, no fatigue, no stimulus. So you burn time and energy, but didn't send the signal your body needs to grow. And the worst part? People often leave that set thinking they did everything right, just because they hit the number. That mission accomplished feeling is misleading. Your body doesn't change when it's comfy. Now let's flip the script. Some folks are so focused on hitting those 12 reps that they grab a weight that's way too heavy for them. What happens? Form goes out the window, they start cheating with other muscles, posture gets sloppy, and injury risk skyrockets. All for what? Just to not fail before rep 12? That turns your workout into a mess. Hurting yourself over an arbitrary number someone scribbled on a plan makes zero sense. These two extremes happen all the time because people are focused on counting, not intensity. But once you shift the goal from how many to how hard, everything changes. Now that you get how rep counting can hold you back, let's talk about a training philosophy that flips the script. No reps. Just like the name says, the idea here is don't count reps. Sound weird at first, right? But stick with me. It'll make sense. The focus isn't on hitting a fixed number. It's about feeling the muscle, training with awareness, and stopping when your body says enough, not when you hit rep 12. The NoReps mindset is built around the fact that every person is different. Every workout, every day, every load varies. So why lock yourself into a rigid number? Some days you're fresh and could go harder. Other days, you're already tired and need to pull back. The point is to reach a real intensity level where the muscle's been truly challenged. With NoReps, you learn to listen to your body, and that totally transforms the way you train. Another big win? Your form gets a major upgrade. When you're not busy counting, you focus more on each rep, on the movement, on the muscle contraction, on the control. That cuts injury risk and boosts stimulation in all the right places. Your workout stops being mechanical and starts being mindful. Muscle failure is the key metric with NoReps. You don't stop because a spreadsheet said so. You stop because you reach your limit with good form. That makes your training way more effective. Whether you did 8, 15, or 20 reps, it doesn't matter. What matters is that each one had a purpose. A lot of people think they need a number to stay on track, but honestly, that's just mental conditioning. NoReps breaks that habit. You start training in a way that's more intuitive, more precise, and most importantly, safer. And guess what? The results come in faster and more consistently.